Preaching for money. Preaching for money. How can you do it? How can anybody do it? When I was in New Zealand, I was preaching over there. I was an itinerant minister. So I was like a relief preacher for when the pastor wasn't there. Something I never agreed with. I always believed that a church should have somebody within the ministry or within the congregation that can stand up in place of the pastor in case he can't make it, or he's sick, or he's gone away for a while, or whatever. I think it's a sad indictment on the church when the church can't even find somebody from within the congregation to fill in for the pastor. But that was my job. I went in and filled in for these pastors that were jetting about for the weekend. And though they offered me money, these congregations would take up offerings and offer me money, and the eldership that was there, that was left, would offer me money. I think I only ever took it on one occasion. And there was many occasions where I preached. And I was working full time as a boilermaker. And I believe God put it on my heart and said not to accept money for preaching. Freely you've received, freely give. I went to a seminar one time when I was a part of the ministry. Got an invitation, and when I got this invitation they said, oh, it's a privilege to get invited to this seminar because it's all for ministers only. And they were from all over New Zealand. When I went to this seminar for ministers, they had like an altar call. And I couldn't believe it when I saw half of these ministers went up the front. And when they confessed up the front, many of them hadn't been seeking God for years. They hadn't been reading their Bibles or studying the Word. By the sounds of it, they didn't even have a relationship with God. And I find that sad too, that if a man's so covetous over his ministry that he won't step aside if he's not pressing into God. Do you know, when you look at the early church, they gave themselves to prayer, into the ministry of the Word. You know, I mean, how far has the church changed now? I've met elders that wouldn't even preach unless you paid them. Yeah, I didn't fit in real good with the church system. Who takes these pastors to task? You know, I've heard people say about these pastors have one of the loneliest jobs out, and it's hard to be a pastor. Yeah, I think it's hard to be a good pastor, but it's quite easy to be a bad one. I've met people that have wanted to be pastors because they want to get a congregation big enough together so they don't have to work anymore. I've heard that. God's my witness, I've heard that. Isn't it sad that you want your assembly to grow so you don't have to work anymore, so they'll line your pocket? Of course, I don't have to touch on televangelists. I'm talking about your local church. How do these people think they'll ever receive anything from God, really? Pastors are the loneliest people, eh? I tried to have a meeting with a pastor once. I was invited to a church to be a part of the ministry. He wrote me this lovely letter. I'd been there nearly a year, hadn't spent any time with him, and I asked him one time if we could get together for a time of fellowship. And I was working full-time as a boilermaker welder. He wasn't working, he was a full-time pastor, and he says, oh, I'll be here in my office between 9 and 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, I think he said. And I said, don't worry about it. I said, I'm not into making appointments with bank managers. That's how disgusted I was. Yeah, pastors has got the loneliest job. No wonder Jeremiah had so many things to say about the pastors.